Hello and welcome everyone to the Speed Street Podcast. My name is Connor Daly. I am an IndyCar driver, thankfully. Driver the number 76, Juncos Hollinger Racing Chevrolet. This weekend, the Mankind Tired of Pricks Chevrolet, as we announced this week. Very, very excited about that. We have an IndyCar race to look forward to. It is race week, Long Beach Grand Prix. Very, very excited about this one. We all know that we need to get back on our horses after thermal. There was a lot of conflict, people shouting at each other on the internet, lots of debate, but it doesn't matter anymore because we're going racing. So we got to focus ahead. We have an incredible race week, the 50th year of the Long Beach Grand Prix. Big celebration, 50 years. Very, very cool to be a part of that event. This one is a big one. So, Chase Holden, my co-host, is here as well. We're excited to kind of dive into some picks for Long Beach. We're going to give our top 3 picks in no particular order, where we obviously want to do some picks and see how terrible we are at that or how good we are at that. Who knows?
Yeah, it's been a little rocky. I won't lie.
Rocky start.
Fantasy's been decent, but yeah, okay. The actual picks, like we've been good with strategy this year. We'll put it that way.
We've at least got like one. Like I had one in thermal, so we'll take that.
You did have that.
But yeah, lots to talk about, and we have a very, very special guest on this show as well. Indy 500 champion, Long Beach Grand Prix race winner as well, IndyCar champion, just a legendary human being overall. Very close friend of my family as well, Danny Sullivan. Spin and Win, Danny Sullivan is on with us this week. Just felt like it was right. I had asked a couple other people, and I wanted to ask someone maybe some historical take on Long Beach and just IndyCar in general. And I think this is a tremendous conversation. Honestly, I feel a little bit bad about some of my questioning because I had so many things that I wanted to ask them that I started to mush a couple together. So I apologize for that, but I promise you there's a lot of great information in this interview. And it's truly special to talk with someone like Danny, who has been through all the levels of the sport and successful all around the world. So that was a really cool one. But Chase, let's get into an IndyCar preview. We've got Long Beach coming up. We've got so much to be happy about. This event is an iconic one on the calendar. What are you most looking forward to for this race coming up?
Really just experiencing Long Beach in person for the first time. So I will be there this weekend. It is the 50th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken. We're returning, or not returning, we're actually going to 90 laps in this race, which is, if I'm not mistaken,
longer race.
Yeah, it might be longest ever, possibly. So
I don't know about that.
Yeah, we'd have to really dig in the history books.
I don't
for that
think
one,
so,
but,
honestly, but
yeah,
but
in
it's certainly
recent
longer
history,
than it was.
at least.
Yeah, it's longer than it was last year.
That is for sure. So it's just going to be really cool to see it. And I feel like now with Fox being on the broadcast, like hopefully open it up to a new audience to get to watch, because it's one of the most fascinating races. I know that I've spent the last 5 years really tuning into it on TV, watching it, during my stuff that I was doing with NASCAR at the time. I always made it a point to just watch. There's aesthetically just these amazing areas of the track. So like I know that there's the one area of the track where you're going around kind of like one of those central monuments, like in the circle area. I think when Jimmy Johnson was racing, it was one of the races that I watched last. I think it might have been the last one that I watched at Long Beach.
Yeah.
Yes.
The fountain,
and then
of
course last year.
Yep.
So, whenever you're getting to see those kind of things, it makes something iconic. So Long Beach being what it is now, being owned by Penske, I just feel like there should be so much hype built up around it. And the Formula Drift people hopefully are staying around, because I know I'm big into the Formula Drift stuff as well. So they just had a great event there this past week. So just 2 back-to-back weekends of just some pretty crazy, wild, awesome racing. Hopefully we're going to see a fantastic one on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's something that we can all look forward to. There's a lot about this race last year when I look back that a well-timed yellow can really make it more exciting. I obviously was not participating in the race last year. I was there. and I went home after the start of the race because I was with my girlfriend. It's hard for me to watch. So I was like, Amy, let's get out of here and let's go just, do our own thing. So that was kind of tough to watch last year, but it's fantastic to be back this year. And we had the same tire as St. Pete. So St. Pete obviously was an interesting one because of how much the green tire degraded. So you'll see that same green tire here in Long Beach. But what I hope is that we will not get a lap one yellow and then suddenly the strategies start to really get a little bit mixed up. You'll have, if folks want to start on the green tire, they're going to have to make that last as long as possible. But this race, now that it is elongated, a lot of the times you'd try to save fuel for a 2-stop race at Long Beach. Now it's definitely a 3-stop, but where are the windows? How can you make a 3-stop work most efficiently? How long do the green tires last? Because in St. Petersburg, they did not last very long at all. So last year, the way the yellow was timed with Christian Rasmussen having his accident, it was kind of perfect for watching two entirely different strategies play out. Scott Dixon being the smartest and most wise with his fuel, and then also Joseph Newgarden having his coming together with Colton Herta last year in the hairpin. That was a wild one. I watched the race last year, a couple times last week, and I enjoy Long Beach. There is overtaking opportunities with all the different fuel strategies, that you can have. I do believe that we are in for an exciting weekend, and I hope that, we can just get back into coming out of a weekend being like, hey, that was sweet. Because I enjoyed the thermal race, but there was a lot of other, stuff on the outside that, that kind of affected that one. But we all know that we're all pumped for Long Beach, and I hope that, folks tune into it because I believe that it'll be worth it. We've got, obviously, as Chase mentioned, a little bit longer race. So the strategy is going to be, a bit of a new thought, a bit of a new think for a lot of the teams. And yeah, just a lot of new liveries this weekend as well. I don't know if you noticed that, Chase, but there are several different paint schemes for different cars this weekend, including myself, which I would love to talk about a little bit. I just saw Kyle Kirkwood even this morning has a new primary sponsor on the side of their car for Long Beach. I forget who else, but it's me, Kyle. There was some other driver as well that I think had a few other folks that have new looks for Long. Oh yeah, the Root Insurance car for Marcus Armstrong. So you're going to see a couple of different looks out there for a couple of different cars.
Just keep bringing them in. Just keep more brands. Keep coming.
Hey, everything's for sale. Everything's for sale at all times, and we're a growing sport, so it's really exciting.
Absolutely.
But yeah, to have Mankind on my car again. I don't know if anyone remembers, but the last time I drove a Mankind car, we put it in the Fast 6 at the Indy GP, and then we got wrecked in Turn 1. So we need a little bit more luck. We were definitely fast with it at the Indy GP a few years ago. The Tired of Pricks Chevrolet. It's inhalemyinsulin.com. That's going to be on the side pod. An incredible group of people that I've had the chance to work with, and just to be able to share my story of my type 1 diabetes. Obviously, if you don't know, I don't really talk about it a lot, but obviously I've had type 1 diabetes since I was 14. So it's something that I haven't, sometimes I've talked about it, but, not a ton. But this is a great opportunity to share my story, and we've got some great T-shirts too. Tired Pricks T-shirts; those are available with a portion of the proceeds going to a great cause as well. And I think that's something everyone can get behind. I think also, if you're coming to the Long Beach autograph session, we might be giving some of those shirts away. So stay tuned for now. I don't want to spoil anything, but we might be, stay tuned. Maybe get in line early.
Just be there.
Yeah, exactly. So just to read, the full charity program here with the T-shirts, but a portion of the proceeds are going to be supporting children with diabetes with each purchase. So a portion of the sales will be donated to CWD, an organization dedicated to providing education and support to families living with type 1 diabetes. So that's pretty cool for me. Obviously, me and my family I was living with type 1 diabetes. My family was trying to work out some things as well. But our car looks great. Obviously, the magenta. It's magenta, first of all. not pink.
Yeah.
So magenta. Let's get that right. But I appreciate the JHR team for doing this with us and making sure that the car looks awesome. You'll also be seeing this car at Detroit and St. Louis. Now, St. Louis, love St. Louis. I haven't been to Detroit in a little bit, but cool to have those folks involved, and I think it looks sweet. What do you like it, Chase? You think it's a good looking vehicle, good looking wagon?
Sure.
Number 76 still, of course. I think people have kept asking me like, oh, if it hasn't changed now, it's probably going to be 76 for the rest of the season. So
there you go.
I don't know that, but I assume I know that. Why change now? We've already changed the logos on the pit boards and everything like that. So it does seem like 76 is here to stay as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love anything that is loud. I like loud colors. I've always been a giant fan. Everyone that's known me even before I was on this show knows I've always loved the electric blue and the electric pink, the neons, anything 90s neon colored, anything that matches that kind of energy or vibe, I'm all in for. So yeah, I wanted to make sure too, because I saw some people online, they were just like, oh, this pink, I'm like, nah, dog, this is magenta. Yeah. Let's be straight. Let's get it right. But it blends so well together. And the big thing for me is too, like we were talking about the other day, like they just had the NASCAR throwback weekend,
which I love, by the way. I love it.
Yeah, I saw your post that you had up on X about that as well. And I think that anytime you can really express through the decades, or you can express new things in their own way, or have companies be able to kind of have some fun with it, because like you want to make it fun and you also want it to be reflective of a driver's personality. I feel like these colors are pretty reflective of your personality. You like that electric and loud stuff too.
Absolutely.
So I'm just really happy to see that it's kind of it's not just so consistently the same thing week to week to week. It doesn't have to always be so uniformed. Express yourself different ways. Let the companies do that. I love the Chili's car that like Kyle Kirkwood has. Like,
it was great.
It seems like the red and the black are slowly becoming like Kyle's colors. It's like, so to see like things getting less uniformed and a little more expressive, I think that's personally a good thing. I think it's good for IndyCar, and it kind of separates that confusion that people may have at times between F1 and IndyCar as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we're in an era right now where, some people don't like the changing of liveries, but we have to have it. The changing of paint schemes. I mean, you got to sell. We got to have, certain areas of the world are better for certain companies, and it's, our sport is growing. So you're going to see different paint schemes. You're going to see different things around the sport, and I actually like it. Like I think showing up to the track this weekend, I love the way the car looks. And is it going to be different the next weekend? Yeah, probably. But it's we know it's for these 3 races. We're going to do something cool like that. So I'm excited and really proud, honestly, to have Mankind back involved with us. And it's a relationship that I've had really since like 2018. So this is a long, growing relationship. This is the biggest that it's been. And we just want to keep this going, and it's something that I'm really, really proud of. So can't wait to drive the vehicle. Let's get into some picks for Long Beach. I think obviously 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Producer Bobby told me is the Fox show. So tune in on Fox Network. Fox now. FS1 for practices, qualifyings. Obviously, we're on the West Coast, so we got an early morning for our warm-up on Sunday morning, but also early morning on Saturday, too. So Saturday, if you remember, IMSA's there as well at Long Beach. So Saturday, we get done very quickly. We got our practice session at I just had my schedule up, and practice 2 is at 8:30 in the morning for us, which is very, very early on Saturday. So that'll be an interesting condition to pay attention to for us there. But and then qualifying very, very quickly after at 11:35 a.m. local time. This is local time, West Coast time. I'm on the West Coast now as well. So obviously you can do the math on Eastern and Central time there. But yeah, tune in on Fox, Network Fox on Sunday for the race. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:52 p.m. local time, which is 4:52. If I'm doing 3 hours correctly, 4:52 p.m. Eastern time is the waving of the green flag. So Very, very excited about this. But let's get into some picks, Chase. Let's not mess around anymore. We got a great guest interview coming up, and can't wait for Long Beach. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to take Colton Herta. Sorry, I got to take Colton Herta. I think it's Colton's going to win. Colton might win by 30 seconds this weekend. I know that Palou is going to be hard to beat.
It's confident
as usual, but I think Colton's going to win by a country mile this weekend, and that's my number one pick in the draft. So go ahead.
There you go. Well, look, here's the things we got to think about, right? Okay, you know me, I always like to look at the narratives for one. Okay, it's 50th anniversary. This is a big event, and whoever wins this one, I feel like is going to be somebody that is like they want to champion the series on their back, and they take it in a way that maybe could be a little more serious or appear a little more serious than others. I'm pretty sure everyone takes it serious. And that's why I'm going to go with Joseph Newgarden as my first pick to win this weekend. I think Joseph,
there you go.
He definitely has that vibe and that aura about him. He kind of wants to be the poster boy of IndyCar. And I don't think that that's a surprise to anybody out there. So I do feel like this weekend we may see Joseph. He has had some decent runs here in the past. I think we can see him show up, and I think Penske will definitely be coming to play, especially for such a big and honorable event this weekend. So that's going to be my first one that I have to throw out there.
I agree. I think it's going to be hard to beat Penske, but Hondas have always been good at this track. Hondas have been quite good here. The Hondas are very good at low speed power application. So the difference between our engines normally is, Hondas are very, very good on traction, and there's a lot of low grip traction necessary corners at Long Beach, especially the hairpin, obviously the slowest corner in our sport. And the Hondas are good at applying power, so they've been good. Obviously, they won last year. But I think for my number two pick, and again, these are in no particular order, so if we happen to nail these in a random order, that's totally fine. But Kyle Kirkwood, obviously, very good on street courses. Kyle Kirkwood has been a winner here before, and he's been right there, I feel like, this season. So I think Kyle is going to have a good weekend. It's hard to not put. I almost put myself in here. I'm not gonna lie. I've been feeling very good this week, and I talked to my engineer. I told my engineer that we're gonna win this race, but to not jinx myself, I'm not picking myself in this group. But I just want to let you know that I'm feeling very good. So we're feeling excited. But I'm going Colton and Kyle so far, and give me your number two pick.
All right, well, you know what? If you're not going to pick you, I'm going to pick you, because if you've got that confidence, then I'm here for it. So I'm going with you, big dog. I mean, look,
all right.
For one, I feel like Chevy, I feel like right now Chevy's in a spot, and you guys all kind of work together on that back end a little bit. Like Chevy's in a spot, I feel like the development's going pretty strong. And then you as a driver as well, I know how much time you've been spending and how much time you've been in the sim and things like that. So to hear that you've got that confidence in yourself right there, that pretty much just sells me immediately. So I'm putting you on the podium this weekend at Long Beach. So I'll do it for you if you won't do it for yourself.
All right, let's go with that one.
Yeah.
I'll take the vibes pick.
That's it, baby. That's it.
All right. Well, so for the number three spot, and I got into the YouTube comments on Scott McLaughlin's YouTube page, and I think the guy who runs that page has deleted my comments because I argued with a guy that was going after Scott McLaughlin, saying he's not consistent enough yet in IndyCar. I was like, dog, there's been two races. We've had two races, and Scott was on the pole in one of them and had a mechanical failure in the second. Like, let's chill, folks. Let's chill for a second. And I think those comments got deleted because I was like, my dog, I was just going at it with this guy who was basically saying that Scott McLaughlin needs to like adjust his driving and stuff because he has not consistent enough in IndyCar. I was like, okay, that guy was in the top three in the championship last year. No big deal. Race winner, pole, first race. Oh my gosh. Sometimes these internet comments, I tell you what, they'll get into my soul, and I shouldn't let it happen, but I just want to make sure people know that they're wrong sometimes. And we're just like, we're going to give you some information that might help you. So
these people know tons, dude.
I'm picking Scotty Mack. I'm picking Scotty Mack. Rebound weekend. They had a tough one. I think Scott and that group, big vibes group, and the vibes are for a massive rebound. So Scott's going to be my third pick for sure.
I'm just gonna say honorable mention Scott, because I don't ever want to go against my dog Scotty Mack.
Honorable mention, all right.
Yeah, honorable mention in here. Like we'll
start picking top five eventually, and then we can throw a couple extra fellas in there.
Yeah, like we got to make sure we keep the energy right. My third one, I have to go with a Honda on this one because, like you said, Honda is good here, and I'm going with the old dog that learns the new tricks. We're going with Scott Dixon again. I think
Okay.
Scott Dixon can go back to back here. He has shown that. I mean, just the record that he's had, and I mean, even if he doesn't qualify well, he's able to slice and dice here for some reason, man. Like he will take advantage of the cautions. His team's got that strategy, so I feel like no matter whether he's up front or if he's in the back, they can find ways to take advantages of whatever's happening at this track. And yeah, that tight turn, I don't think I've seen many people that can turn on that hairpin better than him. He's got a lot of years of experience doing it too, so that's another reason. So Scott Dixon is going to be my third pick for podium this weekend at Long Beach.
Love that. Yeah, it's exciting, man. I'm pumped for this weekend. Come say hello if you're out there. I'm going to have some Speed Street stickers, a limited number, but I'm going to have some out there. And Chase is obviously going to be out there as well, experiencing his first Long Beach Grand Prix. There's something about this weekend that I love. I won here in 2011. That's almost a country mile long time ago. This is almost 407 years, have 100 million years ago. It feels like now, but
Abraham Daly.
But I've enjoyed this track. Have had some good runs here, even in some difficult scenarios. I've had some stuff happen here that is very unlucky, and maybe in one area of my career, just a little bit like, that's weird. Why would that happen? But anyway, that's kind of too deep for conversation. But I enjoy Long Beach. I think that if you can get the car right here, it's such a fun track to drive, and it's going to be a fun weekend. I think we've learned a lot as a team through only 2 races. Again, we've had 2 race weekends, but we also had a test after thermal, which was good. So we have a lot we want to get to, and I think this is going to be finally our weekend where we just take another step forward. I want to win, but without a doubt, the goal has to be finishing in the top 10, and I think we can do it. So, got to execute on every level, and also Foreigners playing this weekend. I don't know if you knew that. Foreigners playing Saturday night. Yeah.
Dude, I haven't seen Foreigner since 2014. Yeah. I went with my dad to the wharf in Gulf Shores, Alabama, and saw them. So I can't wait to rock out to
big
Urgent.
Concert. Yeah, big concert this weekend. So that'll be fun. Lots going on, and obviously, I'm excited to see what IndyCar and Penske Entertainment they do with kind of the 50th anniversary of the Long Beach Grand Prix. It's just going to be great. So a couple other news items before we get to Danny Sullivan. We saw that a couple things this week. Indy 500 parking is sold out. Obviously, I think I'm going to call it now. I think we're going to see the Indy 500 as a complete sellout, and I think the blackout's going to get lifted. That's my positive thoughts. I've been saying that for the last 10 years, but it seems like obviously if the weather forecast is right, everything goes right, I believe we're going to be in a position where this event's going to sell out. I see it. The vibes are right. Everything is going the right way. I'd love to see that. Also, what was cool, I thought this was a big deal, but Amazon Prime Video to sponsor Kyle Larson in the 500 and like with a documentary, I think that's really cool. That's a big group. That's Amazon is a large company. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them. Very large. And so to see that is really cool. I think for our sport, our co-sporting. Obviously, Kyle had a rough weekend at Darlington, very rough weekend at Darlington, but that's not the Indy 500. So I don't know if you noticed, but I believe I didn't have the volume on my television when I was watching NASCAR practice, but I believe Kyle had one of his IndyCar engineers actually with the NASCAR team over the weekend. I saw a person in McLaren IndyCar get up with their NASCAR setup. So love a little bit of that integration. We love a little bit of integration, some crossover in the world. I think that's hugely helpful for the sport in general. But yeah, and then obviously Roger Penske promised our new car for 2027 season. So shout out Roger for just making sure that, hey, we're letting the people know that that's the aim, 2027. I think it's a great idea. I think I'm excited to see how the next 6 months play out and what the decision making process is on the new car and hopefully new manufacturers. But yeah, so that's kind of all that's happening right now in the IndyCar world. Please watch this weekend. I think you're going to love it. And be a friend, tell a friend to watch. The NCAA tournament's over. Obviously, we've got the Masters this weekend. I understand that. Completely different vibes. I like golf too, but Long
two
Beach
screens.
Yeah. You get two screens. Oh, I mean, it's just a different thing. The Masters is awesome. I do agree. But you know what? We've got to fight for every viewer, so we're going to do it. So with that, let's get to an Indy 500 champion. Spin and win, 40 years since Danny Sullivan has won the Indy 500. Very, very cool celebration during this month of May. And here he is, Danny Sullivan. Ladies and gentlemen, this week we have a very, very special guest, someone who is far more successful than Chase and I in life. We hope to only be as successful as this man someday. An Indy 500 champion, a Long Beach race winner. More specifically, this is a Long Beach preview episode. Although the Indy 500 still probably ranks a little bit ahead. The Long Beach win, well, I don't know. We'll see. But Danny Sullivan is here. Danny, we appreciate you being here. I have your autograph in my house on a Red Bull Formula One car. It's framed in my house. It's very random, but you signed the nose of a picture of a Red Bull Formula One car back in the Red Bull driver search days, and that's framed in my house. So I appreciate you being here.
Connor, thanks, and for the memories. You and I go back a long way on trying to do a lot of stuff together in your time in Europe, and good to see you, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
And
so Danny, I know, I appreciate that. So let's talk first about, this is a big year, 40 years since your spin and win. Everyone knows it. If you don't know it, then you're living under a rock. I mean, there's a lot of hype around this year's 500. I hope that you'll be there doing some really cool stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about the month of May coming up for you?
Well, I'm there for part of it. Obviously, one of the greatest honors, the badge that they do every year, which a lot of people don't know, but everybody that works there goes there, spends time, gets the little metal badge, and it's actually got Spin to Win and myself on there, which is just an incredible honor. And for the 40th, and it's Indy is just something that you can't not describe to anybody. It's so special. I was a little bit watching earlier the Masters show with everybody going up to Augusta to play in the Masters, and it's a lot about the same thing. It's this iconic place that you cannot describe to anybody unless they've been there, both from a spectator's point of view, but also more importantly from a driver, a team personnel point of view, just what it takes out of you to win that thing and just to compete, just to make the show. It's changed somewhat over the years. Now I think there's 34 cars this year trying to get in. I think the year I won it, there was like 60. Now, people were jumping in spare cars and trying to qualify. So it's a very special place. And I think, Connor, one of the things that I'd point out, and you know this because you've done it, is the qualifying to Indy is nothing like anything else you do in the world, because it's not just one lap. It's not just the fastest lap. It's 4 laps. That's 10 miles where you're like this on the edge, trying to get it in the show, trying to run around there as wide open as you can, if not wide open, and have the car trimmed out. And nobody can imagine what that's like. Even when I've talked to Formula One drivers, sports car drivers, everything, when they're doing one lap and hanging out, this is 10 miles, 4 laps. And so when you make the show, it's a big deal. And, having done it a number of times, but also had the, honor and privilege to win it is something special.
Yeah, I mean, you've had an incredible career, and I honestly, I have so many questions because I feel like there's so much great stuff to talk about. But I want to talk first a little bit about your time in Formula One too, because Formula One right now, I mean, you still appear in the paddock quite a lot. Formula One has taken a rocket ship trajectory to massive fame all across North America. I mean, when you look at your time in Formula One, I mean, who would you say was probably the most just the most incredible group of drivers to race against. And then how do you compare that to the era now? I mean, there's so many good folks, good drivers now, but now it seems like the fame and popularity is almost more so than focused on, the best of the best drivers.
Well, I think, obviously the technology now, even in IndyCar compared to when I did Formula One, which was 83, but I was in a great group. There was Mansell in there who became world champion. PK was 3-time world champion. Alain Prost was 4-time world champion. I mean, it was a thick crowd, but again, different. Here's where the biggest separation is, and you know this as well as anybody. Even IndyCar, there's strong teams, Penske, Ganassi, and so forth. But basically, if you have the money, you can go buy a DeLorean. You can get either a Chevy or a Honda. But in Formula One, if you're not in the right team at the right time, and there's only 20 drivers, there's only 10 teams currently until Cadillac comes in and so forth. There's very limited space to get in there, and it's very tough. And I think what happened to Bernie did a fantastic job. Bernie Ecclestone did a fantastic job. He was taking it over when I was in it. He still owned the Brabham team. So he hadn't gotten to the place where he was the czar and had no team or anything like that, even though they were asking him to run more of it. And then he sold it to Liberty Media, and those guys, Chase Carey and Sean Bratches, and all their team, because it's not just two people, and Greg Maffei, who had the vision to buy it in the first place for Liberty, they transformed Formula One, and everybody puts it down to Drive to Survive. But I think there was one other aspect that they kept out of there that I think is as big as Drive to Survive, and that was there was no social media in Formula One because Bernie couldn't find a way to monetize it. So he didn't allow it. Well, they opened the social media up to everybody, and I think that had as big as impact as Drive to Survive. The video portion of Drive to Survive, of course, was spectacular and brought it into everybody's living room. And I've got buddies that are in racing that their kids never had a big interest in Formula One or racing or anything like that until Drive to Survive. So it just goes to show that what the power of media in the current day was streaming. Well, look at us. We're sitting there. I'm sitting in the bed having some problems with my computer. I'm sitting in the bedroom at my house, holding my phone up, doing the podcast with all you guys, and it's going out God knows where. So we didn't have that back in the day. But I think that, Connor, you've been around this long enough. Good cars can really make a good driver. A good car with a great driver can even transform that. So what's the percentage of 60-40, 50-50? I don't know. But if you don't have it on the mark and it's not right, and you're not going to win. And I think what we saw in Japan with Formula One last week, Verstappen put that incredible lap in, but then, as you know, in some of these tracks, you can't pass anybody. You can't even get close to them. And now the race becomes, I hate to say it, a little bit boring. Melbourne was the most exciting thing about Melbourne was the rain, And Bernie Ecclestone back in the day said, hey, maybe we ought to put sprinkler systems in on these tracks to liven the show up. So I think, as in all motorsport, I don't care if you're in NASCAR, drag racing, sports car racing, IndyCar racing, Formula One, whatever you're in, you got to have a good car and a good team, or it's just really tough to, do something special.
I completely agree, and we definitely know how that goes. And Formula One is deserving of the recognition. I think what I grew up in, the world that I grew up in, right, with my dad, I always saw Formula One as that's where we all want to go. I tried to make that journey when I was a younger driver. Wanted to be a Formula One driver, but it felt like in America where I grew up, no one really knew much about it. And then now, it's such Formula One is deserving of the spot that it has because of the teams, the drivers. I mean, everyone is the top level, but it's just fascinating to see the shift. And for sure, it has to be fascinating for you to see it too, because you were in Formula One, and my dad was in Formula One too. And now it's like, wow, in North America, I mean, this is, it's the coolest thing in business right now.
Well, there's just to go back to for a lot of people listening that don't know this, my mentor, who your dad knew, who's gone a long time, professor and doctor in medicine, but was in Formula One. He was the one that got me into racing. He helped me. It was a dream, helped me to get there. But on the advice of Sir Jackie Stewart, he said, send the lad over to Jim Russell. Let's find out if he's got any talent. So my background, if you like, even though coming from Louisville, Kentucky, my background was really Formula One, because I did Formula Ford, Formula 3. I lived there I lived in Europe for 15 years. I was 8 years before I came back to America. So I had Formula One in my veins over there, because I worked at the Tyrrell team, which is now Mercedes. It's morphed, but for Jackie Stewart and Francois Severe as a gopher. That was in 1971. I mean, none of you guys were probably, none of your listeners were even around in 1971. Again, I'm aging myself.
We got some classic race fan listeners. Don't worry.
Okay,
We got some
but you get my drift. But it wasn't what it was now, and it obviously morphed and became bigger, and more money poured into it. And I think one thing that a lot of people do realize, but just to put it in perspective, we have the Indy 500, and there's no motorsport event like that in the world. Okay, no Formula One race like that. But in Formula One, every Grand Prix in each country is their Indy 500. Okay,
it's true.
It is their most important motorsport event. Okay. And so I don't think a lot of people realize that, they're in Bahrain this weekend. Guess what? That's their most important. I think it's their most important sporting event, period, much less motorsport event. And in the same when they go to Saudi Arabia and they just came from Japan, it was the same thing. That's their biggest event. So that's also shows what it is. And Connor, you did the European thing as well, and we're seeing this a lot now in IndyCar, where we have a great influx of foreigners, a lot of champions. Scott Dixon, everybody, he's been over here for a long time, but they forget he's a Kiwi, a New Zealander. You got Palou, who's Spanish, and so forth. So, but in our days when we were in Europe was the melting pot of, you'd start, let's say 28, 30 cars at Brands Hatch. Well, probably 20 of them were from a different nationality, and so you were racing against, you were racing against the best from all over. And I also think that's what raised our level of competitiveness. Excuse me.
That's all right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, that's the reason why my dad, wanted me to go to Europe. And also that's the reason why I wanted to go to Europe too. After we won what we did in America, you had to go test yourself in Europe. And I think now it almost feels like IndyCar still kind of has that vibe where the best of the best from all around the world have actually ended up here. Some of the best of the best. That's a very, right. Everyone loves to use that term, best of the best here or there. But, we've got Scott McLaughlin, V8 Supercar champion. You've got some drivers who were in Formula One, Fernando Alonso coming over to the Indy 500. Drivers from all over the world end up in IndyCar. And that has to be something cool to see for you as well, right?
Absolutely. And it goes to show, too, how tough IndyCar is, because none of these guys don't, Emerson was here a long time, Emerson Fittipaldi, before he started winning, he had to get in the right team. When he first came, he wasn't there. Mansell, when he came over, started in one of the best teams, but he just didn't start off. I think he won his first race. I think that was a record, but it was a road race. It was not an oval race. It took him a while to become competitive on that. And he was in the best team at the time with Mario. I mean, that was with Newman Haas. I mean, he was the guy. So
absolutely.
Again, you're a perfect example of that as well. When you were in Europe, you and Rossi and a number of other people, you didn't get in the best teams. So it was really hard to show your stuff, if you know what I mean. And Americans weren't always welcomed there and weren't all
That's for
treated.
sure.
I'm not, and even though your dad was Irish, you're more American
Yep.
from that perspective, because you were born and raised in America. Your mom was, so I'm not taking your Irish heritage away. I'm just saying it wasn't like you were a European that came over here and then went back over there.
For sure.
And as you can speak, and look, Patrick Long, even when he went to Porsche, a lot of people, when we've gone to sports car races, when I drove for Stuck and Boots and stuff, those guys at Porsche and Jaguar, they treat us, these Americans, these Yanks, they don't know what they're doing. So we have to battle on a bunch of fronts. But by the way, I love it. I'm not knocking the Europeans because you had to show, hey, I'm up for what you're throwing at me. Let's go. So I think you mentioned something in your opening. For me, the honor, the privilege, and the experience of racing for so many different people, so many different teams in New Zealand, Australia, all over the world was just such a unique experience. And you can't quantify that unless you've done it. And you know what I'm talking about because you're one of the ones that has done it. And and I think the biggest issue, which is when I started the Red Bull driver search program, I pitched them on the idea for the American rental. I didn't come up with driver searches or that, but I pitched the idea for the American. Scott Speed, 2.5 years from being in the barber school, okay, to being in Formula One. I mean, you think about that. I mean,
pretty impressive.
The program was genuine. I mean, Red Bull, we don't all like what's happened to Lawson and different people and the moving around, but they've had a very successful program for young drivers, and they put the money up for it, which is even more important for all of us. So, anyway,
absolutely. No, I'm going to let Chase jump in here now as well. I know he's got some questions for you.
Yeah, Danny, I find it super intriguing. We were talking about Formula One. We're talking about IndyCar, obviously. You're from Louisville, Kentucky. A lot of people may consider that NASCAR country. And I guess I wanted to know, like, with you coming up there, was there ever like a moment where that looked like something you wanted to pursue, or was that just never an option for you, or was there any appeal there whatsoever? I know you had the one race in '94 with the Brickyard, but really wanted to just kind of get your take on that during that time when you were coming up.
Chase, that's a really good question. Because of my age, and I'm not knocking it, but I was also around Vietnam War. It was still going in great ways, big ways. It was still very active for another 3 or 4 years. The lottery came out. I had a high lottery number. I took off, went to New York, did something different. But I've never been to a race in my life. Never been. Never seen a race. Didn't go down to the Fairgrounds Motor Speedway and watch the short track stuff or anything. I love to drive stuff, but I wasn't a great spectator. But the gentleman that I was speaking of, my mentor, I'd grown up with his son in school, and Frank had connections. Dr. Frank Faulkner, he had connections in racing. He was with ACAS. He had been with John Cooper back in the Cooper Climax all those days. Knew Jackie Stewart, Brabham, knew everybody. He came and sought me out to try to get me, no pun intended, back on the right track to go back to school. And that's where I started to think, hey, I want to go racing, because I'd seen all of his books, Automobile Year, Auto Course. These are all annuals that monitor everything that's going on. And then they're like a yearbook at the end of the year. He had a Mini Cooper. This is back in the 60s, okay? Unheard of. Anyway, that's how it started. So I never really had a connection or a bond to NASCAR racing. And my first experience was going to Europe to go to that driving school and working as a gopher for the Tyrrell team. So all my impressions, all my experiences, everything were for Formula One. And
Awesome.
NASCAR came later when I came back to the States. And then it first started with IndyCar and then eventually IROC and then NASCAR at a later time. I did an ARCA race for a guy out of Louisville, Kentucky, Jack Brown, had a great car. And I went down and ran Talladega. And I remember, I was, just what am I doing here? Okay.
Right.
I had no idea. And I actually finished fifth. And I remember I went over to Richard Petty, the King, and I said, "Hey, I'm a rookie. I have no idea what I'm doing." I said, "Any advice?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "Run up high." He said, "Run up on the high groove," and I did, and ended up finishing fifth in the race I must admit, Tim Richmond won the race, and Tim told me, he said, "Danny, I don't know how you did it. That you had no motor in that car." And everybody in ARCA, they had these big motors and stuff like that. But anyway, it was all great experience. And I got to know Dale Earnhardt, running IROC with him and some different stuff like that. And then we lost some sponsorship in a drive, and the opportunity came up to drive a stock car. At that time, I don't think NASCAR really wanted an Indy 500 champion and an IndyCar champion down there doing well. But but listen, it was just a great opportunity to go drive for Felix and some different people, and I wouldn't change anything, and all of it. But I think I was a little bit, at the time when I was doing that, let's not forget I was already 44 years old. I wasn't going to start probably a new career in NASCAR.
Of course, that's an awesome story, though.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, Danny, with Long Beach coming up this weekend, this is our Long Beach preview episode. You're a Long Beach winner.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give us your thoughts on this weekend? I mean, you still follow IndyCar, you still see what's going on. Can you kind of compare the streets of Long Beach back in the day to the streets now? Obviously, honestly, they're probably not too different, other than they're just older.
Well, they are, but do you remember the original
Yes.
track went up on Ocean Ave, and then it would drop off down there. And you know what was funny? When I first went there, I went there with Tyrrell as a gopher. I mean, we're staying there was pretty seedy back in the deal. Okay.
I have a photo of my dad in the Tyrrell Formula One car at Long Beach sliding sideways through one of the hairpins.
Yeah, well, it was, those days it was pretty cool. But remember, nobody really knew what Long Beach was, and Chris Pook put it on. And then what happened as it gained notoriety and fame, everybody said, "Well, what's this Long Beach?" And the town started developing more. Businesses came in, better restaurants, hotels, all that. And then they started moving us down off Ocean Ave and got us down on the flat. So I raced Formula Atlantic there. I raced IndyCar there, won an IndyCar, and I raced Formula One there. And actually, John Watson won the race in the Marlboro McLaren with Mickey Lauda was his teammate. And when my car had a mechanical, I think an oil line broke, I was actually way in front of Watson and Lauda at the time in the race. Oh. Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't have made a mistake or anything, but it was also one of those places you just had to keep going, keep it off the wall, don't make any mistakes, and just keep hustling it. And
absolutely,
and it's just one of those things. And I'll tell you a funny story that you guys will laugh at, I think. So I'm driving for Gallus, and Lil Al's won the race like 4 years or 5 years in a row. And I'm running a race, and we take off. And we broke free of the crowd, and we're out there running, and Al's leading, and I'm behind him. And I'm behind him for like, I don't know, 80 laps. Okay, we're running nose to tail. And we got held up a little bit in traffic, and, the group started catching us, Emerson, Bobby, and we got held up by one of the back markers when we were passing them. And Al came out down that back straightaway. And, of course, I'm right on him because we got held up. Okay, so he moves over more toward the inside, which I've done the same thing to kind of protect his position, block me so he could get out on the straight and get the gap back a little bit, and the gap would have never been over, a half a second or a second for 80 laps. Well, he braked earlier than I was anticipating coming in the car. And I'm looking because Ray Hall and Emerson were now behind me. They were going to the racing line on the outside on the left side. And I bumped him.
Oof.
And I did not do it on purpose, but I bumped him. And
that happens.
And he spun off, and I went on. I had to do 2 laps, damage wing, 2 laps, and I won the race. Needless to say,
that's all right.
When we got back to the motorhome, it was a little bit of a tough celebration, if you know what I mean. Because
we saw that last year. We saw that Colton Herta fed Joseph Newgarden a little wing last year in the hairpin. Hey, it happens. This is racing.
Well,
it's a tight track.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody knows that drives these things. You're not bumping these things like a NASCAR. No. They don't have fenders on them where you bump somebody with a wing, you could end up in a lot worse situation than they are.
Oh yeah.
And so in Formula cars, you're not body slamming people and bumping and now. But it was a little tough time walking back to the motorhome with the trophy, because Al was their guy. I mean, they were all from, it was Gallus. They were all from Albuquerque, and I get it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, so sorry, Al. but
we cleared
but
the
I
air.
But I got the trophy. And
I love
anyway,
that. I love that's great.
Yeah.
Who's your predictions for this weekend? Do you have any Long Beach predictions for this weekend?
Well, look, I tell you one.
Who's going to beat Alex Palou?
That's a good question. That's a tough question. Look, as we've seen, qualifying is really important, and then if you've got speed, I think you've got an indication of who's going to be fast by the end of the first day. Okay, if they've got it hooked up and somebody can keep tweaking it and getting it better, I don't think it's like what happened with Verstappen in Formula One in Japan, where they weren't that good and they got the car better. Yeah, it happens, but you got to roll off the trailer. IndyCars, everybody's pretty damn close. When you got 20 cars covered by a second around a place like that, you may be tweaking a little bit here and a little bit there, but you better roll off pretty fast. And Palou seems hard. Dixon's awful good around there. Joseph's awful. I mean, look, the field's thick. There's some awful good guys. Herta, I know I'm, leaving somebody out, but it's an awful damn thick field of very competitive cars and teams.
I agree. Chase, I'm going to let you get one more in here for Danny as well.
Yeah, so you've I've looked back at some of your career and your life and the things you got to do after that win in '85. What was one of your favorite things that you got to do in result of winning that race off the track?
The most fun thing. I mean, it was really fun to do Miami Vice. Just
pretty cool. Yeah.
Because it took you. It's a little bit like Elio with Dancing with Stars. It just took us out of our comfort zone. I wasn't trying to start a Hollywood career, but somebody says, "Hey, man, you want to be a guest star on the #1 show on TV?" You're kind of like, "Okay,"
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Michael Mann told me, he says, "Look, we're not going to embarrass you. We're not going to make you look bad. Okay, we'll make sure." So you go, guys, that's kind of cool. But I'll tell you, going to the White House as a guest of Reagan was pretty cool, and just racing on the whole, with the success, and even for a lot of people that maybe didn't get some of the success that I had, it opens an awful lot of doors for people. Racing is one of those things that people really respect, and they know you're out there, and they know what it takes to do it, and it's just opens an awful lot of doors. I guess sitting in the Final Four on floor seats one time was pretty cool. Just especially with what just happened with the Final Four. I was just coming from Louisville, Kentucky, with Louisville and Kentucky and their records and the thing. A lot of stuff like that. But just I think really getting to meet some really interesting and fascinating people, and to have the respect of your peers. you know, and ultimately, think about it, Connor. Think about the privilege of the people we got to race, and you're still doing it, that we're
Hmm,
racing against. I mean,
absolutely.
just look at my class there with Bobby and Rick and Mario and the Unser, both of them, all three of them at one stage, but and the Lion Dyke, and the list goes on and on. I know I'm forgetting people left and right, but Emerson, it just, you know, that was the ultimate privilege, and to win against those people made it even more special.
Yeah, in a beautiful car as well. I mean, that car is iconic. I actually have two final questions for you, and one has to do with kind of something that you just mentioned. I kind of want to know from that era, like let's say mid 80s to late 80s, early 90s or so, is there a driver that you would say from that era would be like your most underrated driver? Is there a driver that you were competing in that era that you're like, hey, you know what? This guy might not have got his fair shot, or this guy I think was better than people than people may assume or may know of.
I think that everybody that I raced against, even if they were a little underrated at the time, they got their shot. You know, I thought that Ari was with Provini Veal, and they had an okay car, and but he got his shot at Domino's Pizza, and then he ends up winning 500 milers and stuff like that. I will say that Rick Mears was probably one of the most underrated road race guys. Now
Oh wow.
he was the king on the ovals, but he was underrated on the road race. And remember, he had the damaged foot, so
Mm.
he couldn't brake very well with his right foot. He had the left foot brake, and on road courses, that's not always the easiest thing to do. I think that obviously Little Al was Little Al, and everybody knew it, but Little Al wasn't always the best qualifier, but he was maybe one of our best talents out there. You can't take anything away from Michael. He didn't win a 500. He didn't win an Indy. But he should have. I mean, he probably is still right up there with the most laps led around Indy.
Mm.
And the list just kind of. I mean, I know I'm forgetting people in there, but it just goes on and on. Right place, right time. You know, uh, my story. I don't know if you know this. I was with Tyrrell in Formula One in '83, and I went to Phoenix on the way back to Colorado, and I went there because I hadn't seen an IndyCar race, and I thought, hey, I'm going to go see some people, and Doug Shearson comes to me. He says, hey, Howdy Holmes is retiring. You got any interest to drive an IndyCar next year? And Benetton wanted to be with a turbocharged team, and Tyrrell was not going to have a turbocharged team, and they didn't know if they were going to get a sponsor and be able to, honor my contract. And I stayed up for 3 nights with Frank trying to go, should we take the IndyCar thing? I didn't know much about IndyCar. It wasn't, I mean, other than what I followed on TV and Autosport and different mags. I was living in Europe, and and so I got that opportunity in a top team, which turned out to be a top team. Dennis Swan, all those guys. It turned out to be a great opportunity. Who would have known? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just.
Incredible.
So I think that as we all know in this game, there's an awful lot of luck.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to try to convince anybody that it was all skill that kept it off the wall at Indy when I spun. But there
It's
was
all right.
also, but in '88, I'm leading the race by a long margin, and the wing mount broke, so I was unlucky as well. So just look, it's I think the guy too that I knew him but didn't know him well enough to say was, I think if Nelson Piquet had gotten into a proper IndyCar and hadn't gotten hurt, he would have done what Emerson did. Nelson was just one of those
Wow.
very special, unique guys. Alonso, same thing. If he had, been in a more competitive car, he was, I know the second time, but if he had been in a more competitive car and he had said, okay, I'm just going to do this, he'd be in the winner's circle. It's just, anyway.
I like Fernando a lot. He's a great guy. I hope he does come back to try the Indy 500 again at some point, but we'll see.
I'm with you. And by the way, one of the smartest guys out there. He's a very clever guy. Did you ever remember the story when he was sitting there, he's driving in Lance's on the team, he's with Aston Martin, and he makes a comment to the team about he said, I think Lance has got a tire going down. And they said, you're not even around Lance, on the thing. He said, oh, I saw it on the big screen.
Oh, yeah.
It was something going wrong with his car. He's up looking at the big screen. Yeah, I think it was in Bahrain, and he's analyzed if something was there. It's like, okay, that's, and I think that's also one thing that a lot of people do not give credit to drivers. When you're in a car for 3-4 hours or longer, your focus is second to none. There's no half times. There's no timeouts. There's nothing like that. You're in the game full on. So anyway, guys,
I've got one last one for you. This is I appreciate, honestly, you've spent a lot of time with us, and I appreciate that. But this is a big question right now in the IndyCar world, and it's all about the new car. Do we need a new car? What do we need to go with? Formula One's talking about V10s. Can we get back to really cool sounding cars? Obviously there's a hybrid element. What do you think is kind of the answer for IndyCar? Because we're kind of at this level right now as a series where we have so much potential. And I think all of us are so excited about the Fox deal, and our competition is incredible. The race teams are incredible. 27 full-time cars. The Indy 500 is the greatest thing in the world right now. But we need to take that next step. And what do you think that is? Is it the new car? Is it something with the new car that kind of launches us into the next level?
Well, I think two things. Fox, I agree with you. And with Pam Miller, directing all that, she's great, got a lot of experience. So you're in good hands there. And I think they want to make a big deal. I think IndyCar racing is probably as good a racing as you'll see anywhere. Okay, anywhere. It's great racing. Okay, always. Every race is exciting. Okay, the biggest issue that's facing the organizers, okay, on them and Formula One in most series, even IMSA, NASCAR, everything. What does the manufacturer want? Where are they going with their build, with their technology? Because you get a manufacturer say, hey, guys, we want to go back to the V10. Oh, we're not building V10s anymore. They've got to justify to put their technology to work, what they're developing for the road, for the track. Okay. I think that's the big question. And I think if I'm over here, if I was trying to run the series, I'd be talking to the manufacturers going, okay, we've got Chevy and Honda in there. I'd be going to other manufacturers. What's it going to take to get you in the series? Okay. And that's where I think you got to go. But I also don't love changes, because what happens is the bigger teams can change faster than the smaller teams. Okay.
True.
They just have the bigger resources. And I'm not saying that's all money, but they have better resources to develop the car. When you get the car in the series where everybody's been running something for a longer period of time, everybody starts closing the gap because they figured it out, or they've done a deal with somebody else to get some of their support, technical support. It just narrows that gap down. And when you do change, somebody gets it right and somebody doesn't. And that's true in almost every series. So, I'm kind of deferring to those things without giving an opinion, because I just don't know what the right step is. and I know the guys that are in the scene and in the know, obviously Penske, but Ganassi and Andretti's and all the teams are talking to manufacturers. They're probably saying, "Hey, this is what we want to see."
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's got to go. I think sports car racing has done a great. Look at all the manufacturers in sports car racing. By the way, not just in the LMP kind of class or the hyper class, but in GTD. And, and I think the manufacturers were talking to them saying, "Hey guys, this is what we're interested in." And a lot of it comes down to cost. You can't make it so it's so prohibitively expensive for the manufacturers to get into. And I think that's one of the challenges with F1. You make it so expensive. The OEMs say, that sports car racing is looking pretty good over there. IndyCar is looking pretty good over there. So I think that's always the challenge.
I certainly hope that we do find those extra manufacturers and we do get the answer to those questions. But Danny, I appreciate this, man. Thanks for spending time with us. I feel like I could talk for hours. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the Red Bull driver search program too, because that was something that I participated in when I was like 12 or 13. It was just cool to talk about that. So, I appreciate you. And obviously we'll see. Will we see you?
Yeah,
when's the next?
We'll see you. We'll see you at Indy.
Okay, Indy. All right. So no Indy.
I've got some conflicts prior to that, so
that's all right.
I'm going to miss you at Long Beach, and this is the 50th anniversary, which I'm really sad that I'm missing because I think they'll do something special, and that place is unique and special. Enjoy it. Good luck to you guys.
Well, Danny, thank you so much, man. And we'll catch you at Indy for a 40-year celebration of hey, honoring the win. Bronze badge guy.
Look forward to it, guys. Thank you so much for the time.
What an honor to have Danny Sullivan on our show. We definitely got to have more past champions on. I would like to do that at some point, I think. I really want to have Mario Andretti on the show. I would like to. Yes. It's sometimes hard. I know Mario very well. Great guy. I like Mario a lot. And I could text him and ask him. But that, for me, I feel like it makes me nervous to do that because I don't want to. Really? I don't want to ruin anyone's day by saying hey, can you come do my podcast? But I think I'm going to do it at some point. I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna ask Mario to be on the show. I think Mario is such an awesome person to talk to, and I have a lot of respect for him. But anyway, Danny Sullivan, awesome guy, very close friend of my family. And just he was a guy that, it was funny. I when I text him to be on the show, I don't really delete a lot of my text messages just because in case I miss something and I needed a reminder of when we last talked. I don't really delete a lot of my text messages. And some of my last some of the messages that were pretty recent. I've talked to Danny a lot recently, but some of the messages I was racing GP3 and GP2 in Europe, and he was asking how I was doing, and you did well this race, and so that was he was definitely a cool resource for me when I was racing in Europe, trying to be a Formula One driver. But yeah, really enjoyed Danny. What do you think, Chase? That was definitely a cool interview for us.
Yeah, first time really getting to ever interact with him before, and I did my research on him. I spent a lot of time last night. I mean, I've definitely known his name, and the only thing I really knew about him was that the spin and win, and that he was on Miami Vice. So to get to hear,
so cool, yeah.
I guess to get to hear about, his life and growing up and just how he perceives it all is really cool. Cause I agree with you too. I want to talk with more of the old dogs, man. That's where there's so many stories and potentially so many unheard stories that aren't on the internet and that aren't online. That's the kind of stuff that I feel like I know that I personally like, and I know that the listeners of Speed Street would probably love. So always great to have legends of our racing time like that on the show.
I agree. And with that, let's get to actually, before we get to this, I wanted to mention quickly, Shiggy Hattori died recently, just in the last couple days. Obviously, former IndyCar driver, NASCAR Truck Series champion, team owner. I remember getting Shiggy's autograph when I was younger. That was kind of the era when I was growing up. I remember him qualifying at Indy in the Epson car. Very sad to hear that. He seemed like a great guy. I didn't get to actually talk to him a ton in my life, but I do remember he always signed my program when I asked him to. So yeah, very sad. R.I.P. to Shiggy Hattori, Indy 500 driver. So just had to get that mention in there. We hate to lose Indy 500 competitors and great race car drivers and great people. So so with that, let's do the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
The greatest event of its kind has never been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. Who will make up the field?
This week, I asked my girlfriend Amy, I said, give me a year. I said, I need a year where we go find a new Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week. And we went to the year of 1926, way back in the day. There are a couple names in this race that we have used before, but there are a lot that we have not. And I found one that I think I don't think we've used it before because I don't remember seeing this name in the results, but in the Indianapolis 500 website results page, the 19th place finisher is E.A.D. Eldridge. So this guy is just three letters and a last name, E.A.D. Eldridge. Which now, if you put that in the Googleizer machine, in the Wikipedia machine, that's Ernest Arthur Douglas Eldridge.
Four first names, dog.
He's got like 19 first names. That's wild. What a fella, huh? I mean, that was E.A.D. Eid. I'm going to call him Ernest. Was a British racing driver. Broke the world land speed record in 1924.
Wow.
That's awesome. He was the last land speed record set on an open road. Oh, that's so like literally just on the highway. That's awesome.
Yeah. Fast and Furious type beat, dude.
Yeah, Ernest Eldridge. Wow. Okay, this is wild. Born in 1897. He only lived to be 38. Very sad, but I believe in that era, probably not too bad. Only one Indy 500 start. And again, this is what I love to find. I love the finds that are one Indy 500, but this guy's like a world land speed record holder. That's kind of crazy. His Wikipedia has quite a story if you want to read up on this.
It really does.
But yeah, that's fascinating. So land speed record guy. Wow.
This dude wanted to go fast for real. Like
he did.
That's his life, dude. This may be the Ricky Bobby of the early 20s, dude. Straight up.
It might have been it. Yeah, that's cool.
Incredible.
So anyway, there you go. Ernest Arthur Douglas Eldridge, a British man, and his name sounds like it because there's a lot of names. So. That's pretty cool. That's our Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week this week. Please subscribe on the YouTube channel. Please like and leave us comments on the Apples, the Spotifys, wherever you listen to this podcast. We do appreciate it. It means a lot. It's fun to do this, and I hope that when we come back next week, we will be talking to the winner of the Long Beach Grand Prix, and maybe it's me. But if it's not, we'll talk to whoever won, and I think it's going to be a great race. So give it a chance. IndyCar is back. We're on our way up to the moon after this race. Next up is the Indy 500 Open Test. So we've got Indy 500 vibes coming up very soon. And then once we start in May, we are pretty much doing something every single weekend for like the next 3 months. So a lot of IndyCar racing ahead of us, and we can only be excited about it. So we'll see you guys next week on Speed Street. Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.